Escape is not her plan. I must face her alone.
What is the meaning of all this? Look, if you're one of those critics, crazy critics who are gung-ho on destroying me because of my book, The Color Purple, portrays men, African-American men, poorly, then just give me a chance to explain.
No. Alice, I am your father-in-law.
I'm afraid you're mistaken. I no longer have a husband. We divorced 9 years after marrying.
But you are Alice Skywalker, are you not?
No, I'm not. I'm Alice Walker, author of The Color Purple, Meridian, and many other well-acclaimed novels.
Ugh! I've done it again. Taken the wrong person. I should have known that my son Luke would never marry someone like you.
Someone like me? Listen, you racist, sexist pig. I know people like you. Oh yes, I've written about people like you as well. I bet you're a low-down dog. Well, look here. You're lucky, because writing has saved me from the sin and inconvenience of violence, so I won't hurt you, hopefully.
Yeah. Listen, what's your name? Alice? I felt a tremor in the Force. And God told me it was because of Luke's wife.
Really? God told you that? Well, I say that the God I've been praying and writing to is a man, and act just like all the other men I know. Trifling, forgetful, and low down.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Well, that is just too dang bad. I used to think that this life soon be over, but heaven lasts always. Now I know that God ain't a he or a she. It's an it. And I think you come into the world with God, but only them that search inside find it.
Interesting. The Force is strong with you. Are your parents Jedi Knights?
No. My father was a dairy farmer and a sharecropper. He was incredibly strict when I began dating, and he suffered from hypertension and diabetes. My mother was a part-time maid, and she made our clothes. Sometimes she worked in the fields with my dad as well. She encouraged my desire to further my education. Oh, how I miss them.
Further your education? What good would that do? I can see where your father was coming from.
Well, I was valedictorian of my high school class and was able to receive scholarship money. But the day I left for Spelman College, I saw Pa standing outside the bus with his hat and old gray fedora in his hands, helpless as I left the only world he would ever know. I could see the pain in his beautiful eyes as the bus left him standing there, the side of that lonely Georgia highway, and I moved, blinded by tears of guilt and relief, even farther and farther away.
Poor fellow. I was never able to see Luke go to school. But then again, I'm almost glad I didn't. While he was in school, the civil rights movement occurred, and I could not bear to watch him become an activist.
You are aware that I was actively involved in the civil rights movement and am now engaged in feminist causes and environmental issues. Correct?
I am now.
Whatever. Anyway, I believe that no person is your friend or kin who demands your silence or denies your right to grow and be perceived as fully blossomed as you were intended.
Your beliefs bore me. Luke had great potential and could have joined the dark side of the Force, but instead he chose to work with them. Now, I am depressed.
Depressed? Let me tell you about depression. I've been depressed countless times in my life, but I've found ways to get over it. In college, I got pregnant, and I knew this would disappoint and shame my parents, so I had an abortion. And then I was even more depressed, and I still thought of suicide. I saw the healthy green leaves of my America falling, seared to the ground, her sparkling rivers muddy with blood. But then the kind old guitar player, Mr. Sweet, died, and on the day of his burial, I wrote to hell with dying. Something had come over me, and I was no longer depressed. In fact, I was very creative and began writing poetry seriously. When I got married, my husband and I were among the first interracial couples to live in Mississippi, and we endured numerous attacks. Then I suffered a miscarriage and was once again depressed. A week later, I saw Coretta Scott King's face on television. I knew then that my grief was really just self-pity, something I don't believe that Martin or Coretta had time to feel. So I got back on my feet, continued to write, and within a year, I learned that I was pregnant again. Fortunately, I gave birth to my daughter, Rebecca.
I suppose it is possible to have a resurgence of happiness, but you could just be lucky. But tell me, whatever happened between you and your father?
Well, he passed away, and what I regret most about my relationship with my father is that it did not improve until after his death. For a long time, I felt so shut off from him that we were unable to talk. I hadn't the experience as a younger woman to ask him the questions that I would ask now.
Interesting. I feel a presence. A presence I have not felt since Luke's birth.
Maybe you still care for Luke. You don't have to be like many of my characters, especially Brownfield Granger, who is violent and cruel. You've tried to convert your son to the dark side, and upon his refusal you've attacked him. Look, I know many Brownfields, and it's a shame that I know so many, but I will not ignore people like Brownfield. I want you to know I know that they exist. I want to tell you about them, and there's no way you're going to avoid them. But you don't have to be like him. Apologize to Luke. You must live frugally on surprise, because you never know. He may forgive you.
Thank you, Miss Walker. I appreciate your advice, considering